what's going on, you Golden Sky Radio listeners? This is Coach from the Golden Sky Radio station and from the Inner Champions podcast. On show number 4 today, we are going to talk about the first portion of the Success Starter Kit. I also want to let you know right away that this is going to be about a 5-part series, maybe 4, depending on how well and how in depth I get with this series. But I want you to get your notebooks. I want you to get your journals. I want you to get anything that you can take notes, you can write on. I think that this is one of my more valuable, series of shows we will be doing here on goldenskyradio.net. I just want to break into it by this is going to be the first part of a potential 5 or 6-part show series. So grab your pencil, grab your pens, grab your notebooks. If you're a color-coordinated freak like me, grab all your markers, grab everything, and let's take some notes. And I hope that you ultimately can take a piece from today's show. And we're going to talk about foundation and why I believe building a foundation, or a strong foundation at that, is valuable, is important for anything that you do. Now, like I've mentioned on a few episodes already, there is potentially a lot of you that want to ultimately become successful or have some type of level of success, rather that be in a family, rather that be in a business, rather that be in whatever you choose in life. Now, ultimately, like I mentioned a couple minutes ago, I think the most important thing where I believe a lot of people tend to forget because it's overlooked, and they ultimately want to get to the goal. They want to get to that championship. But in order to get to that championship, first and foremost, I need you all to understand that even before the foundation, it's okay to fail. You want to fail. It's okay to experience failure. It's okay to experience a loss. It's okay to experience, those hard times. Because I truly believe if you don't go through those hard times, if you don't go through those obstacles, you won't know how to conquer them again in life. And when you're faced with them, it's ultimately, obviously, the hardest part of, becoming successful, becoming the inner champion within yourself. And again, when I say the words inner champion, it's not just directly to sports. I know that's how my podcast itself got started. And that's kind of where I based it on, but I came here to Golden Sky Radio to broaden that, to share my wisdom, to share my knowledge on everything in life. I personally have gone through some tough situations, tough times in my life. I currently live with one every single day. Ultimately, I'm not going to sit here and discuss that today. We'll get into that in a later date. So I go through my own obstacles, and with my own obstacles, I have learned within this Success Starter Kit series of shows that we'll be discussing, the more, if you slow it down and you really dive deep, like I'm going to try to do with these shows for you, it's like building a house. When you build a house or you build any kind of structure, whether that be a shed, whether that be a tree house, whatever, you have to start with the foundation. Especially if it was a tree house, ultimately, we know you'd be attaching the pieces of wood to a tree and everything like that. But let's say you don't have that foundation in the center to build off the tree and build your ultimate dream tree house. And again, ladies and gentlemen, this is just primarily an example. And I need you guys to understand that if you don't have that tree in the center, how are you going to build your own foundation? How are you going to build your walls around your house? How are you going to put up that insulation in your house? How are you going to put up that drywall? And ladies and gentlemen, at the end of the day, like I'm going to tell you, it's brick by brick, it's section by section, it's level by level. How are you going to make your 1-story home into a 2-story home? You're going to grow and you're going to get to the next level. And ultimately, I think that that's where I'm going to dive deep in this foundation. And when I talk about the foundation, that's literally what I'm referring to, is the foundation. Picture it in whatever you want to picture it in. But ultimately, I think the easy way to break it down is, when you build a home, what do you start with? It's dirt. What's your next layer? Rebar. What's your next layer? Cement. What's your next layer? Then the wood foundation. It's brick by brick. It's section by section. It takes time. And ultimately, for a home, and we'll just utilize this for an example, it takes permits. So once you, and think of the permits as crossing these things off your list, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and for whatever level who could be listening out there, think of it as a checklist. Create a checklist. When I say create a checklist, I'm talking about create those accomplishable goals. I know I've mentioned before in probably one or two of my other shows about this point in creating accomplishable goals, but it is valuable. It is important to create that checklist. It is important to create, like I said before, that foundation, because at the end of the day, this is what you're building on. You have to be willing to start somewhere. And if you come back to me in an email and say, Coach, I don't know where to start, well, then you need to fail. You need to know what it's like to go through and fail. You need to know what it's like to go through and lose at something. Not necessarily personally, obviously in your life you need to lose something. I'm not saying go lose an animal or anything like that. No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying you need to know what it's like to go through something, basically a hard time. And if you don't know what that's like, then right now you have it made. But until you learn and establish what it's like to lose something, then the light bulb is going to turn on. And after you turn on the light bulb, how are you willing to branch out? If we want to talk about light bulbs, how are you willing to branch out your tree? How are you, think of it as your branches of where you're growing. How are you willing to grow? Think of you planting the seed. It ultimately starts the same way. When you plant a seed, what do? You dig a hole. Then you find the seeds and you put the seed in the hole. And then what do you have to do for the seed to grow? You put water on it. And then what does that ultimately do? And we'll get into this too, and probably another part of one of these shows is that seed grows. We need you to grow. We need you internally and mentally and physically to grow and want to grow. If you don't have the want, you don't have the desire, you don't have the passion, you don't have anything and everything lined up, ready to go, you're not going to ultimately be successful. You're ultimately going to struggle. You're ultimately going to come up with excuses. You're ultimately not going to wake up out of bed every single day and want to push and want to be valuable and want to. This is all a foundation, ladies and gentlemen. It is. It may seem hard right now, but those are the parts where you struggle. Those are the parts where you fail. Those are the parts where you ask for assistance. Those are the parts where you speak up. Those are the parts where you stick up for yourself. It may be hard right now, but after you go through those obstacles, after you go through those tribulations and trials, and again, I don't want to sit here and say excuses. You may call them excuses. Don't call them excuses. Get rid of those excuses. Anything you want to achieve is accomplishable. You have to be willing to put your mind to it. You have to be willing to sit there and have the desire. You have to be also, at times, willing to sacrifice. What are you willing to sacrifice in your time, in your life, to accomplish whatever goal you're wanting? Do you want to win a championship? Do you just want to win at life? Do you want to win at a family? Do you want to win at getting up every day? Do you want to win at, getting a college degree? It doesn't matter what you're willing and wanting to do. Whatever you're willing and wanting to do and put your drive and put your passion, put your heart into, it could be as simple as you want to be a TikTok creator. Are you willing to sacrifice 6 hours of your day and be on live stream and look into a camera and talk to a microphone and let people ultimately be keyboard warriors and point your finger? Again, when they do that, that's the part that's you might consider the hate. Consider that a failure. Grow from the failure. I personally know 3 people. I'm not going to mention any names because this isn't the platform to do it. But I know 3 people currently who have started on a TikTok platform and ultimately became successful. Why? Because they set a baseline, they set achievable, stackable, brick by brick goals, and they are ultimately successful. And I will say, for the 2 of them that I'm talking about are successful, I was a part of that, and I'm honored and I'm privileged to say that I was a part of that. And I ultimately, I look at them every day and go, you got here because you were willing to take those sacrifices. You got here because you were willing to build your platform brick by brick. You got here because you were willing to listen to someone who has had experience on social media. You got here because you were able to be perceptive and just absorb what was going on. They were new to the platform. They didn't know anything. All they knew is they picked up a microphone, they started talking and said, I wanted to do this. Well, what we did was we built out a foundation, we built out a platform, we built out the walls, we built out the insulation, and we built the house. The house is built. Now, wherever the house is built at, it's on them to want to take it to the level they want to take it to. I can ultimately say I am very honored and privileged to be a part of several different people's lives and help them learn to build that foundation, to build that structure, to build that ultimate dream home, to build that ultimate goal of becoming successful. I have yet to go through what I've gone through and starting to realize every implement that I've put in. And again, I'm going to sit here and take some personal credit for it. I am. But I'm telling you, ladies and gentlemen, anything you want to accomplish, rather, even if it's going to buy a new car and anything. And ultimately, in this series of episodes, we're going to sit here and we will discuss section by section on how to do that. Now, the next portion of this show that we will get into next week is basically after the foundation. And I might have skipped a step, and you can ultimately put this in whatever format you want to put it into when you get to this show and when you hear this. But a part that I probably missed that I should have ultimately discussed, but at the same time I didn't really miss it because we were talking about foundation. But anyways, I jumped the gun. Again, this show is not perfect. I'm not perfecting this by any means. This is just coming from me, my experiences, and what I can do to assist you and guide you to be helpful and to be proactive in your up and coming or current situation. But I guess the next portion of this show that we'll dive deeper into, and I know I've mentioned it in a show or two before this, is a vision board. And I'll explain all of that and how a vision board works. And you can ultimately go out to your local store. It could be a Dollar Tree, and we'll get into all that in another show. But that's ultimately the part I think that I kind of forgot and kind of overlooked. But at the same time, I don't think that I did because, like I said before, this was the show of building your foundation, and maybe potentially you can label it something. Okay, this is how Coach decided to help me build my foundation, and we can branch off ideas and stuff like that. But like I said, the labels are not really what matters. You can sit here and twist whatever you want to twist. You can say what you want to say. This is your book. This is your journal. Put it in your journal however you're going to remember it. Everybody learns differently. Everybody takes notes differently. Like I said in the beginning of the show, if you're color coordinated and you love color coordination, do it that way. Use different pens, use different markers, use different things. Highlight the moments that you remember. Highlight the things that you may take notes from. Because all of this is about retaining something from it. You don't have to retain every single word. You don't have to retain every single piece of information. I mean, ultimately, if you do, that's just more brownie points for you. That's more things that you can reflect on. That's more things you can look back at. And I know a 30-minute show like this can be, long and drawn out. And I don't want to do that. I don't want to sit here and ramble. I want to kind of give you different pointers. I want to kind of give you just different, involvements or little nuggets or details, like I said in a couple of shows already. It's just really important to me and this is my way of giving back. This is my way of ultimately, hopefully, along the line, somebody emails me and says, "Hey, Coach, you really helped me through this process." This show is what it did that for me because the owner of this station, a year ago now at this point, had run into a really bad problem, a really bad issue, personal issue, and I found her Real Talk with Jordan podcast. What she does do now on Golden Sky Radio Station. Make sure you check her out. On Tuesdays at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, she has her very own Real Talk with Jordan podcast over here, right here on Golden Sky Radio. That's a little personal plug for her. But back to my story a little bit. She kind of ultimately saved my life without her even knowing she saved my life. She knows it now. We've had deep discussions and conversations and things like that, and she gets it and she understands it. She's appreciative of it, and everything like that. And ultimately, over time, we'll get into that. I think that I will end up doing a show called "Get to Know the Coach" or something along those lines. That's further down the road. I kind of just want to give you those simple tips and tricks on maybe if you're struggling to happy, be successful, be whatever, you can come here, you can listen to these shows, and you can ultimately take something away from them. I personally had this personal podcast somewhere else on a private location, private apps and whatnot. And I never thought that it would hit anybody. I never thought that anyone would actually listen, but I was truly mistaken by that. And that's why we're here today. Right here on the Golden Sky Radio Network for you guys to just take this in, absorb it, listen to it. Ultimately, like I said many times already, I know I sound like a repetitive, person, but just take notes from it, and really, like I said, and we'll get back to it. Is just build that foundation, however you want to build it, and remember, it's okay to fail. It's okay to struggle, and the reason why, and I'll go back to it a little bit in case you guys have forgot, because I know we're pretty deep in the show now. It's okay to fail, and why I'm gonna say it's okay to fail, because if you don't fail, you don't know how to be successful. If you just ultimately want to jump to that championship, want to jump to that success, want to jump to I'm ultimately a champion, then how are you going to know how to deal with these struggles? How are you going to know to deal with these ups and downs? How are you going to know to deal, I'll just say it, for example, a really bad breakup. How are you going to know how to treat that? How are you going to know to go through that? In order to go through that, in order to deal with these hard times, I think sometimes you got to live through the hard times. You got to battle. You got to be battle tested. You got to become battle tested. And in order to become battle tested mentally, physically, emotionally, sometimes you just got to go through those emotions. In 2025, like I kind of mentioned, I think in a previous show already, I was battle tested. I went through a very hard time. I had a hard time going through it. I had a hard time coming out of it. I was ultimately in a downfall, a really bad depression. I've never said this live, so I hope you guys are paying attention, but I was in a really, really bad spot. So I ultimately, for these podcasts, I want to hopefully, at the end of the day, catch somebody or catch something before that happens. I want you, and the point of these shows are to ultimately give you the proper guidelines or what I've experienced, not necessarily the proper guidelines, because there's all different values of information that you can find, you can look up. Thank you, YouTube. Thank you, Google. Thank you, AI. Thank you, ChatGPT. The resources are there, but I think, in my own opinion, hearing from somebody that's been through some things and been through some ups and downs will ultimately catch it before, and not necessarily catch it. If it doesn't catch it, that's okay. But you can reach out to me, and we can sit here and discuss. We can come up with a foundation. We can come up with a plan. We can come up with a detailed, where you want to be in 5 years, if that's the case. I'm no professional. I'm no doctor. I'm no psychologist or anything like that. But I've been through the ropes. I know what it takes for what I've done. And if it's for something that's out of my league or out of my professionalism, I will tell you. I'm not going to sit here and false lead you down a path that I don't know anything about. And maybe if I don't know a path, we'll learn it together. I ultimately don't know anything about radio, and I don't know anything about what I was doing here on Golden Sky Radio, but your fantastic, amazing owner is willing to be able to teach me the ropes, and we're off and running. So, like I said before, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, this goes for absolutely anything you want to do and or accomplish. I didn't know that I wanted to be so involved in online radio and, I guess, behind the scenes and what takes place, and your ultimate amazing owner has helped me learn the ropes, taught me what she knows, and it's been a amazing thing that we've got going over here at Golden Sky Radio. So if you have yet to do so, and I want to kind of do a personal plug, make sure you follow Golden Sky Radio on all social media platforms. That's Facebook, that's Instagram, that's TikTok. And also make sure that you check out our website at goldenskyradio.net for any further updates. If you want to potentially advertise with us, we do have a slot for that. If you want to promote something, or just go check out the website, go see what we have to offer. And remember, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, that this website and this radio station will grow and continue to grow. This is a brand new radio station. We're still learning the curves. We're still learning the ups. We're still learning the downs. but we're okay. Just ultimately trust the process, continue to visualize success, stay positive, stay the course, and we will get through this together. We ultimately want to build one of the strongest online radio station communities, if not the strongest. We are not here looking for clicks. We are not here looking for a follow count. We want to build true connection. We want those of you that catch these shows and everything in those guidelines to reach out to us and say, hey, I'm looking for help, or hey, I can help you by da 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 da. Da. Make sure, like I said, you check out that website, goldenskyradio.net, for all of the ways you can get in contact with us, either via email. Eventually, I don't know if it currently is active at the time, but we also have a number that you can call into the show. You can leave certain requests. You can, I guess, ask to be on any one particular show, the ones that have shows here. And it's just going to be something phenomenal. We're starting from the ground up. We're not sitting here. I personally won't hide things like that from you. We're brand new. It's okay to be brand new because guess what? We're building our own foundation. We're building our own level of success here at Golden Sky, and we will be successful because personally, I will not sleep. I will sacrifice my sleep until we become successful, until we become great, or the level of greatness that I want us to see ourselves become. And that's my own personal passion. That's my own personal heart. Nobody recorded me or told me to say that. I'm saying this out of my genuine heart, my genuine mind, because I believe in what's going on here at Golden Sky. I believe who's behind Golden Sky. And ultimately, I will do what I can to sacrifice. I will do what I can to make sure that we're successful here at Golden Sky Radio. So now, before I forget, I want to go into the quick recap of what this show was about. I know we're getting to the point where we're winding down. Ultimately, today's show is all about building the foundation. Like I said in previous shows, you can reach out to the show. You can reach out to the station. We have an email available for you. Please send in your requests, send in your recommendations on maybe a show title. Maybe there's something that you want me to talk about. Maybe there's something that you want Jordan to talk about. Maybe there's a song on Saddle Up with Jordan. That's the show on Friday nights at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Just utilize those things that we have on our website. Reach out to us. We'll connect with you. We'll conversate with you. We'll build that genuine relationship with you. Again, that is how we get this station to grow. That is how we get the Golden Sky Foundation to grow. And that like I said, ladies and gentlemen, to back it up again, it goes for anything. I know that these shows are going to ultimately sound repetitive to you, but again, being repetitive is ultimately going to get your brain to reweave itself and remember why we were repeating what we were repeating, because it's an ultimate believe. It's an ultimate trust the process. It's an ultimate visualize the success. Myself and Jordan visualized this happening, visualized this going down, visualized that it was accomplishable, and things like that. And in order to do that with anything in your life, you have to ultimately do that. That is part of the sacrifice. That is part of the pattern. That is part of the habit. You ultimately have to become good at better habits. You have to get rid of the bad habits. You got to get rid of the negativity. You got to get rid of the toxicity. You got to get rid of all of the bad things going on currently in your life. And if you can't get rid of everything so that you can build this clean foundation, limit the bad things, limit the negativity, limit the bad toxicity, whatever the case may be. It doesn't matter. Ladies and gentlemen, like I said before, you have just really have got to want to do this. Like I've said in countless public speeches I've given, I can lead the horse to water, but I cannot force you to drink. It goes along with this show. We can give you all the valued information that we know, we've experienced, we've been through, our tips, our tricks, our everythings. But what are you willing to take away from it? What are you willing to build on your vision board? Which, by the way, before I forget, that is the next show that we will be getting into is vision board, and all about why a vision board is important and ultimately what a vision board can do for you and not just for you, but for your mind. I am so excited that I could probably get into the whole vision board on this show, but we're about to wrap this show up. I wanted to thank you all for listening to all of our shows here at Golden Sky Radio. Real quick, let's go down the list. On Mondays, we've got 80s and 90s Wave with Bridget. On Tuesdays, we got the Real Talk with Jordan at 6 p.m. On Wednesdays, you're here with me, Coach, for the Inner Champions podcast at 4:30 Eastern Standard Time. And then we skip Thursday because I don't think we have a show for that slot yet. On Fridays, we have Saddle Up with Jordan at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So the majority of your week here on Golden Sky Radio is taken care of. I guess my last bit of reminders is remember that this radio station is active and running 24/7. You can listen to country, you can listen to pop, you can listen to 80s and 90s, just a whole variety of music. And with that amazing music, you have also these, I guess I would call it, the mind wealth building shows on how our experiences can ultimately help you and assist you. Myself and Jordan with her Real Talk with Jordan podcast show that she does here at Golden Sky Radio, and myself that does the Inner Champions podcast over here as well for Golden Sky Radio. I encourage you, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, to ultimately, like I said a couple times already, but it's kind of good to plug it again. Go visit the website. Go give us your feedback. Go give us what you want to hear. Maybe there's a topic you want us to talk about. Maybe there's a potential section that you want to ultimately come on one of these shows with us for one of our shows, and maybe we can work that out. Maybe if you're genuine and serious about a conversation that you've heard here on Golden Sky Radio, at least I personally would be willing to take that risk and have a conversation with you on the radio station. Ultimately, later down the line, I do intend to have a guest or two on our station with me as a co-host, as a co-podcaster, I guess, in this sense. But these shows will continue to get better. These shows will continue to improve. So please continue to come back, especially for next week, because for next week, we will be talking about a vision board and going into great detail on why I believe a vision board is important for you in any walks of life, at any time in life, at any age in life. I ultimately put this around teenagers' life. I ultimately put this around the high school life. But again, it goes for any age. It goes for any time in your life. You could be in the middle of a family, and this vision board can do you some it can do you some success. It can lead you and your mind in the right direction. There is a lot of ways to do that, and I can't wait to crack open that can and just experience it with you and go into some greater details on why I believe a vision board is extremely important and is extremely a successful tool for you to utilize time and time again. This is something that you won't want to put away. This is something that potentially you might want to hang in a frame in your house. I don't know how willing and extreme you would be willing to get. But like I said, I want to make my particular podcast, my particular show, get better, be better for you, give you as long as of a detailed tips and tricks as I can. This is ultimately probably going to be a 6-part show, or in better terms, a 6-part series for you to learn the ropes of why the Success Starter Kit will be valuable for you after this show, after these set episodes, after these set series of shows. You can carry on this Success Starter Kit with you, not just here on Golden Sky Radio, but for your afterlife. I want you to be able to take those notes. I want you to be able to sit down with your family and be like, okay, guys, let's do something like this. Again, like I'm going to say for all of my shows here on Golden Sky Radio, you don't have to take it word for word. You don't have to take it section by section. But the more that you can either write down in a journal, write down on a piece of paper, write down in a notebook is going to benefit you. It's all for you, ladies and gentlemen. I have been through the ropes. I have been through the ups. I have been through the downs. I have ultimately done this. I have become successful at what I wanted to become successful at. I have won a championship. So now it is my turn to give back, to make sure that you ultimately can win at that championship. You can ultimately win at that dream family, that dream job, whatever the case may be, ladies and gentlemen. I want you to be successful. I have ultimately crossed that path, crossed that line. It is my turn to continue to give back, continue to make somebody learn something from these episodes. I ultimately want an email saying, Coach, you were able to help me with that. Coach, you were able to help me do that. And with your guidance and your leadership and your, just understanding of, I guess at the end of the day, just my story. And again, before and after this show or set of shows are over, you'll through the middle part of that, you're gonna get to know who the coach is. You're gonna understand the heart. You're gonna understand the passion. You're gonna understand the desire. You're gonna understand why I am so invested in Golden Sky Radio. At the end of the day, that's what I want to do. I have the ultimate outlet. I have the ultimate privilege and the ultimate, dream to do what I'm doing. And if it wasn't for Golden Sky Radio, who knows where I would be? I'd still be off on my own, searching for my own little, okay, how do I make myself better? Golden Sky has given me that opportunity. We at Golden Sky want to give you the same opportunity. We at Golden Sky want you to listen to the little nuggets. We at Golden Sky want you to do that. It's all together. We're in this together. We want to ultimately build that community. So I'm going to go ahead and stop ranting and stop raving. And I just want to excite you to come back for next week's show. This will be part 2 of next week's show. And then we'll go into part 3, part 4, so on and so forth from that point on. Thank you for listening to the Inner Champions podcast here on GoldenSkyRadio.net.